Hey guys, welcome in. Rob Kendall Show. Hope you're having a great Wednesday. Thanks so much for spending your time with us. Man, we've got a huge show coming up for you today. Coming up here in just a little bit, former Indiana State Senator John Crane is going to be with us, Republican State Senator. And we're going to have a really important conversation about how we, as liberty-minded, conservative people in our state, start moving our lawmakers better. One of the things last year that became abundantly clear to me during the whole property tax, what ended up being a property tax debacle, is that we got to get better. We got to have a better strategy on how to actually move lawmakers when it comes to public policy. The ways we've been doing it, not working. And so John's going to be with us here in just a little bit. We are going to talk about things that moved him as a state senator, ways he was best influenced, and he's going to offer some advice to us going forward on how to be better advocates to our General Assembly. Let's face it. We're up against an absolute mountain when you talk about the donors and the lobbyists and the special interests that all have huge budgets, huge influence with these lawmakers. We've got to get better at this. And John is kind enough to come in with us and peel back that curtain a little bit. How do these guys get motivated? How do they get moved on public policy? And so we'll talk about that in a little bit. And also, later today, look, truth be told, I got no idea where this is going to go. Normally, when I do segments, it's sort of like, planning a trip, which I would use Baltus Travel, of course, if I were planning a trip. But it's like planning a trip when I do a segment. Here's where I start. Here's where I'm going to end. Here's how I'm going to get there. This segment we're going to do later today, I got no idea. I don't even know where I'm going to start on it. And it is related to the body cam footage finally being released to the public on the raid of Nathan Peternell's home. His son, Jonathan, now in prison, pleading guilty to heinous crimes against children. And that body cam footage tells us a lot about a lot of people. And obviously, you guys know this has been very personal to me because I feel totally betrayed by these people, by a variety of people, as it relates to Life Church. And I thought about it for a day and a half now. It's like, how do I even do this segment? Because there's so much that's in that body cam footage. And last week, so the body cam, some people got the body cam footage last week. I know somebody who got it. It's about 20 hours in total. It's very long. It's a lot to get through. There were specific things that I wanted to know that person played for me. So I knew the things that I wanted to know last week. This person had asked me, they said, hey, they're working on their own thing. Don't reveal this to the public yet. So we, embargoed it, and then other news media outlets got it. So they said, okay, go ahead. You can talk about all the stuff that you saw. And the public obviously was made aware yesterday of it. Law and Crime put it out. Abdul, various other media outlets, listed part of it. It's heinous. But it did tell me everything I already knew, and it sort of puts a bow on my ability to be able to now talk about it. So next hour, I don't know where we're going with it. It may be 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15. I know we got to be out to do the comments, the YouTube comments at the end of the show, brought to you by Black Sheep Plumbing. But I'm going to get some things off my chest with this because a lot of people have been hurt by the Peternells. A lot of people have been hurt by Life Church. A lot of people have been hurt by Micah Beckwith. And there's some things that need to be said, and we're going to say them coming up here next hour. But first, lots of local news to get to. And if you guys are new here, welcome. I know we had tons of new viewers, listeners yesterday. If you're new to our program, welcome. It's so great to have you. I'm Rob Kendall, the host of the show. Producer Jason, you'll see him later. He's the guy who makes all the things happen behind the curtain. And what we do here every day for 2 hours a day is Indiana news, politics, and government. And if we talk national stuff, we tie it back into how it affects us here in the state of Indiana. Nobody else doing what we do. Nobody else can do what we do. And so that's what we give to you every single day. A couple ways you can help us out. If you haven't already today, hit the thumbs up button, that like button. Let us know. Let us know you like the program. That really helps us. Also, if you haven't, hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to the YouTube feed. That way, whenever we go live, and the little bell, the little ding bell, you can hit that, and that'll let you know when we go live every single day. And last but certainly not least, share the feed. Share the YouTube feed. Let people know that we're here. We are growing organically. We are not a big corporation. We don't have a bunch of money behind us. We're just us. two guys in a room talking about local news, politics, and government. And so that means we're a family. We're in this together. And so your role in this is to let people know about it, help us grow. And when we grow, see, this is the great thing about us growing. When we grow, we get more influence potentially over public policy, which means you potentially have more influence over better public policy. So those are the three ways. We call it like, share, and subscribe. Like the post, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share the feed. One other thing, if you like what we do and you're feeling generous, we do have a support button up at robkendallshow.com. robkendallshow.com. Whether it's $1, $10, if you enjoy what you're getting here every single day, and maybe more in the not too distant future, we'll see. You can hit that support button. We appreciate it. I try to send a thank you note to every person who hits that support button, and it really helps us continue to grow the program. One other housekeeping note, and then we'll get on to the show. State House Happenings is up, a brand new edition of State House Happenings. Every week, 30 minutes, we give you the biggest stories in Indiana with politics and government. Abdul, Jim Merritt, myself. This week, we're getting into Braun falling flat on the utility bill promise that he's made, the utility bill pledges. This new bill really does nothing to support regular people. We'll talk a little bit about these Senate primary challengers. We'll talk about if they come up short, why that might be. If they succeed against these incumbents, why that might be. And Abdul, obviously, one of the first people to get the story out about the Peternell body cam footage becoming public. That is a massive story, and more media outlets should be and hopefully will be talking about it. All of that and more on this week's State House Happenings, which you can check out once you get done today, 10 until noon. And think about it, like people are like, how do you think about State House Happenings now? I think about State House Happenings as like a 30-minute bonus to the Rob Kendall Show. You know, for years we did the weekly segments with Merritt and Abdul. We don't really do those anymore. We get them done on State House Happenings, and man, the numbers have been phenomenal. And so we think of it as like a little Easter egg, a little 30-minute Easter egg that we give you guys every single week, getting the biggest stories of Indiana news, politics, and government. All right, let's get to the news of the day. And this is a fascinating story from the Indy Star. Kayla Dwyer, a phenomenal reporter, did a story about the amount of money. I mean, she talked a lot about these challengers against the incumbents running on redistricting, running on Trump's endorsement. And it's a long article over at Indy Star. But one of the things that was interesting in the article is I felt like they did a pretty good job of breaking down the amount of money that these challengers groups are spending. And so I want to roll through the amount of money they're spending, and then let's talk about what's actually going on here, because there's a lot at play here, and it's not actually about better government. And we'll talk about if it was about better government or accomplishing something, how this money would be being spent. Okay, so according to the Indy Star, the Club for Growth, they have a PAC, Club for Growth Action, has announced a $1.5 million spend in 6 Indiana Senate primaries. So we'll keep trying to do public school math here while we're going. According to the Star, $3 million from a group affiliated with U.S. Senator Jim Banks. They're called Hoosier Leadership for America. They're that 501c3, that nonprofit dark money group. So we got $1.5 million, $3 million. So that's $4.5 million. You've got Braun's Political Action Committee pledging $500,000. So that's $4 million. And then you've got Turning Point USA, who has pledged as much as $10 million or more in this race. So we know for a fact that there's been $5 million spent. And by the time it's all said and done, it could be $15 or $20 million spent on these challengers against Republican senators who voted against redistricting. Guys, this is a revenge tour, and that's it. It's not about more Republicans in Congress. It's not about better public policy. It's not about you at all. Like this is, I guess this has sort of been the overarching theme of what I've done for close to 10 years now. Trying to convince you to make it abundantly clear to you, it's not about you at all. If this were actually about getting more Republicans in Congress, think of the damage $15 million could do in the 1st Congressional District. Because remember, Indiana has 7 Republican districts, 2 Democrat districts, and really one of them is probably in play. And that is the 1st Congressional District, Northwest Indiana, the region. Frank Mervan is the Republican incumbent, or the Democrat incumbent congressman. And that district has tended to be 5 to 6 points in favor of Mervan, the Democrat. Well, that's certainly doable. That's certainly winnable. If the Republicans are governing effectively, if the Republicans are having a good impact on society, if they're bettering the lives of people, it's not like it's a Democrat plus 30 district. It's a Democrat plus 5 district or plus 6 district. That's easily winnable, especially if you're dumping $15 or $20 million into the district from outside groups, which I thought that's what redistricting was all about. I thought redistricting was supposed to be about getting more Republicans in Congress. And they have a golden opportunity. Except for the fact that the Republicans know, both in this state and in Washington, they have not delivered for the people of Indiana. The Republicans and their affiliated groups, Turning Point USA, Club for Growth, this group affiliated with banks, all Turning Point USA, all of these people, Braun, are acknowledging they can't win in the 1st. A district that they have said for years now is trending red. The Republicans have said this. A district that they've described as a swing district. A district that they have described as gettable. And they're putting all of this money into state Senate races. When they're mad, they claim to be pissed off about redistricting, which the goal of that was to get more Republicans in Congress. You always don't look at what these people say. This is the key. Don't look at what they say. Look at what they do. And what the Republicans and their affiliated groups are telling you is we can't win in the 1st. We can't win on the merits of our governance. So we needed to rig the district to bail us out, to put somebody in there who will fail in the same manner the rest of the Republicans have failed. This has always been my argument against redistricting. Why would I want more of the same crap? We all know, we saw what this was all about. It was about getting Jennifer Ruth Green elected to Congress. Jennifer Ruth Green, of course, the former failed congressional candidate up there in the 1st, then gets anointed as sort of the golden child by the state party, even though she was a loser. She then gets given a cushy job in the Braun administration, cabinet level position. She has such a sense of entitlement that she behaves in a horrible fashion. And within 7-8 months, she resigned her position. It ultimately culminated in a major fine to the Ethics Commission, Inspector General investigation. And then once the Republicans voted down redistricting, what did Jennifer Ruth Green do? She came out and said, I'm not running for Congress, and admitted she can't win without the redistricting. This was all about electing Jennifer Ruth Green to Congress. And we saw the sort of person the Republicans wanted to elect to Congress. Someone who had zero respect for you. Someone who abused her position of authority. Someone who had zero respect for the position she was in or you who paid her to be there. And once she bailed, what happened? The Republicans have bailed too. All this money suddenly went into a revenge tour against incumbent senators who voted against redistricting. Notice the revenge tour didn't start when they screwed us on property taxes. The revenge tour didn't start when they didn't do anything about utility bills. The revenge tour didn't start when they enacted the largest tax increase in the history of the state, the gas tax, and then renewed it. The revenge tour didn't start when the Republicans kept pumping billions of dollars into a totally corrupt, unethical IEDC. The revenge tour started when they knew they couldn't win the 1st. And they got mad because the Republicans in the Senate wouldn't rig the political system in favor of further bad governance. This isn't about you. Why wasn't Jim Banks and this dark money group, why weren't they spending this money the first time the gas tax got voted up that screwed you? Or when it got renewed that screwed you? Or last year when we put 1,000 people in the State House and we sent tens of thousands of emails and phone calls begging for help with property taxes? boy, we could have done a lot of damage with $3 million. Jim Banks wasn't angry then. Dark money group not spending any money to help us then. This isn't about you. They don't care who these people are or how they're going to govern. Trump couldn't even get the lady's office right, the one woman he endorsed, that Brenda Wilson in Vigo County. They don't care. There's no rhyme or reason to any of this. And by the way, Trump endorsed Liz Brown up in Fort Wayne, who has been the biggest hindrance to two issues that are key, front and center to much of Trump's core base. She was a major obstacle on constitutional carry for years, and she's been a major obstacle on meaningful immigration policy changes in Indiana and how law enforcement deals with illegal immigrants. Trump endorsed her. This isn't about policy. This isn't about you. This isn't about making your life better. If they wanted more Republicans in Congress, and the first district is winnable, as they've long said, if it's a swing district, if it's trending red, why isn't the $15 million going there? Because Republicans have failed. They haven't delivered in the state, and they haven't delivered in Washington. They haven't delivered on the core promises they made, which is to lower taxes in this state. Nationally, they haven't delivered on the core promise of affordability, of getting inflation under control, because they just do the same thing the Democrats do. You know, it's fascinating. You guys, I'm sure you're in this season too. I had the great fortune of going to see my accountant the other day and sign the forms to pay my obligations to Uncle Sam. You guys doing that right now? And so every year I'm, because I've got the OCD, and my accountant, I'm, fabulous guy, good guy, had him for many, many years, very respected accountant. But I don't just take the accountant's word for it. I'm one of the guys, because I have the OCD, who needs to go in and have a conversation. Why am I getting so screwed by my government? And every year we walk through what I owe and why we owed. If I do owe, some years you get money back, etc. And so we got in a conversation about the big, beautiful bill. And he said, okay, give me the accountant's perspective on the big, beautiful bill. Let's cut the politics out of it. Let's cut Trump out of it. Just give me the skinny on the big, beautiful bill. And he said, unless you're a person who lives off tips, there's a good chance that bill didn't do nothing for you. And I walked through different things they talked about in the bill. He talked about things that got pulled out that would have actually helped regular people, the majority of Americans, things that were discussed and things they left on the cutting room floor. And he said, this was targeted for votes. Because I said, looking at the totals, and they look very similar, as for most people do. If you have the same sort of jobs and pay the same amount of taxes, your taxes probably usually look pretty similar. I said, I thought this big, beautiful bill was supposed to be very helpful. He said, oh, no. He said, unless you're a very specific group of people, that bill didn't do anything. I have a term for that. It's called legalized vote buying. And it was very refreshing to me that a professional who does this for a living and has for decades said the same thing I've been saying. The Republicans didn't help you. They helped a very select group of people. They had every opportunity in that bill to do things to help you, and they passed on it. They did targeted help to people who they want to vote for them in swing states. So anyway, I just thought the numbers are mind-boggling. The amount of money that these Republicans and Republican-affiliated groups are spending to get rid of senators who, while there's 50 areas you could have targeted them over the years for ways they've screwed the people of Indiana, not doing that. They're going after them because they wouldn't rig the maps to help the party, to help the system, to help Trump. And they should be spending that money to help Trump try to win up in the first, except they can't win in the first because they haven't governed in a way that will be rewarded by the voters. Hey, selling your home is a massive transition, and it can feel overwhelming. Lauren Wilson believes you deserve a real estate experience that's as personal as the home you're selling. When you work with Lauren Wilson, you aren't being handed off to a different assistant every week. Lauren is your primary partner from the day you list to the day you close. Trust your home to someone local. Lauren is a lifelong Hoosier, military vet, and a graduate of Cascade High School. With Lauren Wilson, you get her direct attention. And by the way, she would love to hear from you, even if you're not in the home buying or selling market right now. If you're saying, hey, just need to know somebody's there when that day comes, she'd love to have a conversation. Lauren Wilson with @Properties, 317-590-2290, 317-590-2290. Okay, when we come back, question for the YouTube chatters about I got a problem with some of the state of Indiana's doing. It's a major policy change, but maybe I'm missing the boat on it. Maybe what they're doing is a good thing, and I will ask for your commentary when we come back. You're watching Rob Kendall Show.
Are you seeing cracks in mortar, moisture working through walls, facade or structural failure beginning to surface? Bramwell McKay sets the standard for exterior and structural building solutions. Our 40-year master masons and industry experts address moisture intrusion, failing foundations, masonry deterioration, and more. From preserving historic landmarks to addressing modern building envelope issues, Bramwell McKay delivers full-spectrum service with white-glove professionalism. In Indianapolis, call 812-33-BRICK. 812-33-BRICK.
Hi, I'm John Piper. I'm running for Congress in Indiana. I'm the only candidate in the United States of America exposing the crisis we have in mother's breast milk. Purdue University is a major player in that. Purdue is selling our veterinarians to out-of-state corporations for big money. Bobby Kennedy needs to know about it effective immediately. We are 55,000 veterinarians short across the United States. My two major opponents, Craig Haggard and Jim Barrett, are both protecting the Iranian terror cell in Plainfield, Indiana. I'm John Piper. I approve this message. Paid for Friends for Piper for Congress.
Buying a home or thinking about refinancing? Work with someone local who understands the central Indiana market. Gary Tedrow with Verity Mortgage helps homebuyers and homeowners explore options for purchasing, refinancing, or even consolidating higher interest debt through their mortgage. Gary's approach is simple, clear advice, and personalized guidance, so you can make confident decisions. Visit loansbygary.homes to learn more or get started today. You've got nothing to lose but dollars on your mortgage payment. So call for a free, no-obligation quote, 317-695-5179. Gary Tedrow, NMLS number 179207 with Verity Mortgage, NMLS number 70345, an equal housing opportunity lender.
I'm Doug Cobb for Clay County Commissioner. I'm running to bring transparency back to our local government. As a concerned citizen, I want to know what's going on. We need new and fresh ideas for today's challenges. We need a vision for future generations. As a small business owner, I want to explore and promote opportunities to make us all successful. Let's create a brighter future for Clay County together. I'm Doug Cobb, running for Clay County Commissioner, and I approve this message. Paid for by Linda Cheatham.
Hey guys, welcome back. Rob Kendall Show. If you haven't done so yet, hit the little thumbs up button here on YouTube. Let us know you like the program. It's a huge help to us. And also, if you haven't, hit that subscribe button. Let people, that way you know what we're doing here on the Rob Kendall Show. 2 ways you can really help us out. All right. So here in just a moment, I'm going to read the story from the Indiana Capitol Chronicle, which is fascinating. And I want to get your those of you in the YouTube chat. By the way, you have to be a subscriber in order to chat in the YouTube comment, make a YouTube comment. But I want to get your guys' opinion on if I don't like this, but maybe I'm totally missing the boat on it. I'm open to it, right? I don't have any firm opinion on this, but I want to get your guys' opinion on about some of the states doing. Before we do that, though, planning a trip can be overwhelming. You know where you want to go, but how do you make it happen? That's where Baltus Travel Service comes in. Adam Baltus takes the worry out of travel, and he's with you every step of the way. The great thing about Baltus Travel Service, in many cases, it won't cost your trip an extra dime. Adam's certified through most major cruise lines, as well as Disney and Universal theme parks. If you've been thinking about going anywhere in the world, take the worry out with Baltus Travel Service. No charge for a consultation to find out in advance what your trip's going to cost. How about that? He does it all for you, lets you know, and then you say, hey, I want to use this or not. It's up to you. Get started today by visiting baltustravel.com, BALTUS travel.com, or call 812-593-7561, 812-593-7561. It is the vacation season. Use our friends at Baltus Travel. Big fan, big viewer, big supporter of the Rob Kendall Show. All right. Okay, so let's talk about what's going on with the state of Indiana, and they've declared a tax delinquency holiday. Like, what the hell did he just say? All right. So, according to the Capitol Chronicle, if you're a business or an individual with overdue taxes in the state of Indiana, you're going to have your first chance in more than a decade to pay off those bills without penalty. So, the tax amnesty, the Department of Revenue, according to the Capitol Chronicle, has set a tax amnesty period to run from July 15th until September 9th. The program has been in the works since legislators instructed the agency in last year's state budget. We'll get to this in a second, because the reason they did this is hilarious. The admission they made by doing this, and they said set an 8-week period where if people come and pay their stuff off, no penalties, no criminal charges, nothing, right? So the key is you have to have had a tax delinquency, a tax liability before January 1st of 2024. So these are old tax penalties. And if you show up and you voluntarily pay, well, I don't think you have to show up. I think you just send it in, right? I don't think you're going to show up and go, here's my tax penalty. But if you pay during this amnesty period of July 15th through September 9th, you won't face any civil penalties, any criminal penalties, no late payment fees, interest, or collection fees. Okay. So there's part of me that goes, well, that really probably could open up an opportunity for the state to get some good revenue. The last time they did this, let's see, what was this? But by the way, the state is estimating they're going to collect between $156 million and $277 million. That's a lot of money. The last time the state did this in 2015, they collected $188.5 million, which at the time that came out to about 1/3 of total liabilities. So almost 1/3 of the taxes that were owed by delinquent people got paid off in 2015. So part of me is like, okay, that's a lot of money. That's a good thing. So maybe I should be supportive of this. But then I'm like, wait a second. I pay my taxes every year. I pay my taxes on time. I am an upstanding citizen. I have taken money out of my account and I have given it to the government. Why are these people getting a free pass? Why are these people who held on to their money, who didn't pay in an applicable time frame, who didn't pay right away, who held on to their money and used it for video games or candy bars or cigarette machines? Why are they getting a free pass? So I'm struggling with this because I see both sides of the issue. 10 years ago, 11 years ago, state got a buku of dollars, about 1/3 of the money they were owed, which allowed the state to use money for special stuff. By the way, and we'll come back to this here in a second because it is important. The money that the state is going to collect this time is going to go into the general fund, which means the state can use it for whatever they want. Whatever legalized vote buying scheme the state chooses to participate in with this money, they can. To me, the governor just came out and said, I-70 is so bad he's got to raise taxes by $6.5 billion. Shouldn't we take that potential $200 million and say, hey, the first $200 million we're collecting from the tax amnesty, going to save you people from paying more in taxes. We're going to use $200 million. The first $200 million going to I-70. Now we've whittled that down to $6.3 billion in taxes we're going to need. I get very concerned when I hear the money's going into the general fund because that means they can use it for whatever pet project they want, like, say, I don't know, the Mid-States Corridor down in Southwest Indiana. Let me know how you guys are feeling about this in the YouTube chat. Comment, tell me. We'll read some of those later on in the program. Here's what really bothers me most about all of this, though. This is not being done because we're feeling generous as a state. This is being done out of an act, or was done out of an act of desperation by the General Assembly because they've so mismanaged our money. Let's go back to last year. Because, like I said, don't listen to what they say. Look at what they do. We talked about that last segment. And what they did, if we go back to last year, remember at the end of the legislative session, despite having months and months and months to debate a budget, to come up with a budget, to spar over budget, with a couple weeks to go, and this is a real insight into the people who run our state, remember the legislative leaders looked around and said, oh, crap, we're going to be $2 billion short. What the hell do we do? And what they did was they chose to raise your taxes by $1 billion. Now, it turns out, because like everything else with state government and federal government, they're so poor at administering it, the revenue projections were hundreds of millions of dollars off. And it turns out they had plenty of money. Which, of course, I've now asked the question for a year. Do we get our $1 billion of tax increases back, since it turns out there are going to be billions of dollars we didn't know about? By the way, how could you be that wrong? How could the revenue projections be that far off? And they collectively said, smooch my butt cheeks. The government said, smooch my butt cheeks. You're not getting any of your money back. Shut up and pay. Here's what it said in the Capitol Chronicle. Legislators turned to the Amnesty program last year as a way, quote, to fill the bucket as best we could with additional revenues after a dismal tax collections forecast in April 2025, Senate Tax and Fiscal Policy Committee Chair Travis Holdman said. Bingo. This was an act of desperation. The state so mismanaged their money and could so poorly project their money, it turns out, that they had to do this tax amnesty cash grab, or they thought they had to do this tax amnesty cash grab in order to pay their bills. It's why the money's going to the general fund. When Pence did it in 2015, it had a dedicated fund it went into. Here, whatever they want, because they didn't know what they were going to want it for. They didn't know what they were going to need it for. And they are using this tax amnesty as a cash grab because they thought they were going to be dramatically underfunded. This is a great insight into our state government and everything that I keep telling you guys here every single day. These guys couldn't run a lemonade stand if their life depended on it, and we put them in charge of everything as it relates to our quality of life, our daily existence. It's simply unbelievable. So let me know how you feel about it. How are you feeling about the amnesty holiday? Is it good that we're going to get additional money coming in, or are we rewarding bad behavior and punishing those of us who pay our taxes on time? Let me tell you about our friend Gary Tedrow. Before choosing a mortgage, it's smart to talk with someone you trust and can actually sit down with because he's local. Gary Tedrow with Verity Mortgage is a local lender helping buyers and homeowners in central Indiana with home purchases, refinancing, and strategies to manage debt using home equity. Gary focuses on education and guidance so you understand your options before making a decision. No pressure, just solid advice from someone like you. See what could be possible for you. Go to loansbygary.homes, loansbygary.homes, or call 317-695-5179. 317-695-5179. Here's how it works. You tell Gary your circumstance. Here's what I'm paying. Here's what I got. Here's the situation I'm in. He takes a look at what he can do for you. Tells you, hey, I can save you money here, there, whatever. Or what you're in right now is better what I can do for you. He's going to let you know. Gary Tedrow, loansbygary.homes. Gary Tedrow, in MLS, number 179207 with Verity Mortgage, in MLS, number 70345, an equal housing opportunity lender. Okay. Coming up here in just a little bit, guys, former state senator John Crane is going to be with us. He's going to talk about, and this is really important, because I've said the goal of this show is to get better public policy. When it's all said and done, what I'm trying to do here, and I want to entertain you guys, and I want to educate you guys, and I think if I do those two things, we're going to get a force of people who are going to be about better public policy. And one of the areas we have failed as conservatives, as liberty and freedom people, is figuring out how to better lobby our legislators, better communicate with our legislators. We are losing the battle to the rich and powerful. We are losing the battle to the donors and to the lobbyists, to the connected, to the special interest. And we got to figure out a way to do a better job with this. Okay, so that's coming up. Then at 11 o'clock, 11-ish o'clock, we're going to talk about what came out on the body cam footage of the raid of Nathan Peternell's home, which ultimately culminated in the arrest and conviction of Jonathan Peternell for heinous crimes against children. There's a lot of stuff we got to talk about. These people have harmed a lot of people. They have screwed over a lot of people. They have messed up a lot of people. And now that we have the body cam footage, we can put an exclamation mark on something I've known for a long time and who these people are. And so we'll do that later on in the program as well. Okay. State Line had an interesting article about all the high-density housing we've seen in Indiana and more that we're about to see. And so State Line is an organization. They work with the Indiana Capital Chronicle. They are featured in news publications like the Capital Chronicle, nonprofit news publications across the country. They write about government in the United States, and I thought this article was very interesting. So the government... What we realize now is the government created the housing shortage that we see today. The federal government, and in this case, the state of Indiana, created the housing shortage that we see today. Why? What did they do? A couple of things. Number one, they turned on the magical money printing press in 2020, and it has gone on in full force ever since. What, $5 trillion printed in 2020? What did that do? It flooded money into the market. The government, lowered interest rates to 2% or less for some buyers. And what did that do? It skyrocketed the price of housing. Because people could pay more for a home because money was so cheap. Well, and we were screaming about this at the time, 5-6 years ago. The problem with that is eventually money wasn't going to be cheap. Eventually, interest rates were going to have to rise. And what would happen is people would become stuck in their homes. Why? Because, yeah, you may have got a hell of a deal on a $400,000 home if you were paying 2% interest. But that home doesn't become that great of a deal. In fact, it becomes a horrible deal if the person who wants to buy your home has to get a 6% or 6.5% interest loan. So I said the logical conclusion is, yeah, you're going to get a great deal, but you're stuck. You're stuck unless you hit the lottery. Unless you come into a lot more disposable income, you're going to be stuck where you are, which is going to limit the houses available for people if people aren't actively moving. That's the first thing that the government did. The second thing that the government has done over the past 10 years, certainly since Biden was president, is there have been a flood of people coming to this country, both legally and illegally. Asylum seekers, HB1 visa workers, all of these people who have been allowed into the country under Biden. And that, of course, doesn't even touch on the 10 million or more people who have in addition to the tens of millions who are already here, who've illegally entered the country. All of these people are in the home buying or renting market. They have to have somewhere to live. And that means when you have fewer homes for sale because people are stuck, caused by the government, and more people wanting to live somewhere caused by the government, you're going to have a shortage of homes. So what should the logical answer to this be? Well, you and I as logical people would say, well, we got to get all the people we let come in and have a do-drop-in policy in our country out of the country. That would free up certainly the amount of people who need housing. All the people who are here taking jobs from Americans, lowering the wages of Americans. We got to get them out of the country. And we got to deal with the affordability, the interest rate issue, which has caused the people not being able to afford homes. There has to be a middle ground. Money shouldn't be free. It shouldn't be an impediment to access. The reason it's an impediment to access right now is because the government caused home prices to skyrocket because of turning on the printing press and lowering the interest rates to try to make you believe, and this is what I keep coming back to out of COVID. The government wanted you to believe that it could shut down society and you wouldn't feel any pain. It's the reason we're in the Medicaid debacle we're in right now in Indiana. Why? Because Holcomb threw all those people on the Medicaid rolls during COVID. Wanted you to believe I could take your job that gave you benefits and you wouldn't be disrupted. It's a lie. Same thing with the government. They wanted you to believe we could shut society down and you wouldn't be disrupted. Here's your check. Hey, money's cheap. Of course it disrupted society. We are going to feel the effects of COVID and what the government did for generations. I'm not sure we'll ever get out of it. But instead of having logical responses to this, governments across the country have said, you know what we got to do? We got to figure out a way to make housing more affordable. So the logical question is, well, how the heck are you going to do that? Money is expensive. People are locked in their homes. I know what we'll do. We'll make it so that we can make a whole bunch of high-density housing developments with lower standards. Well, yeah, but a lot of communities don't really want that. A lot of communities kind of like having high housing standards. Well, I know what we'll do. We'll make laws so that local communities can't enforce standards anymore. And this is what they've done in the state of Indiana. And it's happening in states all over the country. In Indiana, last year, this past legislative session, there was a big, and look, there's so much stuff going on at the end of session, it's hard to keep track of everything. And we talked about a little bit. I think we were still doing the Facebook and Twitter live videos when we were doing this. So to our YouTube audience, this may be completely new. According to the Capitol Chronicle, and they're accurate on this, Indiana enacted a wide-ranging law that limited local government's ability to stand behind or enact zoning rules that prohibited high-density, low-value homes from being built. And they gutted the ability to have public hearings for local governments to have to hear from you when you object to a high-density, low-income housing development being built in your community. The state of Indiana just said, screw all you people. Screw your local property rights. Screw your local governments having say over what goes on in their community. We need houses, damn it, because we've screwed everything up. And all these HB1 workers that we've brought in through the IEDC, all these asylum seekers that find themselves in the state of Indiana, they need somewhere to live. But wouldn't the logical answer be not to gut the fabric of our communities or identities of communities and allow us to make choices? Well, no, because you're not going to do what we want, so we'll just take away your ability to do whatever you want. That's the Indiana Republican Party. Democrats went right along with it, by the way. Anyway, I come back to, and this has been happening for years in Indiana. I had a conversation a couple years ago with a prominent Central Indiana school superintendent, suburban school superintendent. Will not name the person because the person was very candid about education policy, the good and the bad. We had about a 2-hour conversation about this. It was fascinating. And this person does not align with me politically, and the person would be ostracized from all the superintendent groups if it came out they were having a conversation with me. And we talked about just totally candid with each other, off the record in terms of naming people or whatever. But what this person told me was, they said, one of the things local governments don't realize is that when they build these high-density housing developments, they get enamored with the assessed value that the builder's throwing out. Like, the average home is going to be $450,000. And the lawmakers, the city and town council members, the mayors go, oh, great. What they aren't realizing is that many of these people who are now occupying these high-density housing developments are these people not permanently in our country. People who are here legally in many cases, but not here permanently. Asylum seekers, visa workers. And what happens in many cases is these people bring multi-generational families with them over time. And so, yeah, you have a $450,000 home, which if you had a single family living in there with, let's just say, 2 kids, that's not a bad deal for a school. They're okay with that. But if you got 3 families living in there, 3 families, or 3 generations of people, now you have the equivalent of a $150,000 home, because all those people need government resources. And that $150,000 home, it's a loser. It's a loser for the taxpayers. When I ask the question, why is all this growth not paying for itself? All these houses, all these businesses, why do we keep being told to pay more? The answer is very simple. This is a big part of it. The growth is not paying for itself because you have so many people in these high-density housing developments. And in the case of the schools, if you're sending 6 kids being educated in a school in a $450,000 home, that's a loser for them too. I've seen this firsthand. I lived in a newer housing development years ago, and both of my neighbors, both sides of me, got to know them, from Nigeria. Nice enough people. But you know what they also were doing? Had multi-families living in there, multi-generations of families. I saw it firsthand. Not saying these people are breaking the law, not saying they're doing anything wrong. We're allowing it to happen. It's all over the place. Everybody knows it's going on, but nobody will do anything about it. And the response from the state? Well, it just make it more prevalent. Let's stop local government's ability to do something about this. We are seeing the death of our communities. Communities that once had identities like the place I live, they're going away. They're done. They're all just the same. They're all just places for people to be. There's nothing that binds them together. There's no fabric. There's nothing that ties them together. There's absolutely nothing. And our state, instead of doing something about it, instead of standing up for us, our state is doubling down on the insanity. Hey, leaky chimney, water in the basement, cracks around the exterior of your home. Bramwell Mackay Property Services and Consultants is your authority for chimney repair, tuck pointing, foundation repair, crawl space to basement conversions, basement waterproofing, and more. Bramwell Mackay doesn't offer quick patches. Their team of 40-year master masons and industry experts address the root cause and provide solutions that last lifetimes. Your home is one of your biggest investments. Treat it that way. Bramwell Mackay, BRAMWELLMCKAY.com, your masonry, foundation, and chimney specialist. Okay. Stick with us. When we come back, former State Senator John Crane will be here. We're going to have a very important discussion for all of us about how we better advocate for ourselves. We get better results when it comes to dealing with the legislators. We've got to start getting some wins. We've got to start beating the lobbyists and the special interests. He'll give us some behind-the-scenes look at that. And then later, we're going to talk about what was on that body cam footage of the raid of the Peternell home, telling us everything I've been saying for months and why you should all be outraged about that and how the lieutenant governor ties into the conversation as well. We'll talk about that. All that and more when we come back. You're watching Rob Kendall Show.
Hi, I'm Lauren Wilson, a realtor with Properties. Born and raised right here in Central Indiana and a Hoosier through and through. Selling your home is a massive undertaking, and I completely understand what that is. That's why when you work with me, we put a great plan together to make sure that when your home comes to the market, it is in the best light possible. Again, I'm Lauren Wilson, 317-590-2290. 317-590-2290. Let's put a plan together and get your home sold.
I'm Doug Cobb for Clay County Commissioner. I'm running to bring transparency back to our local government. As a concerned citizen, I want to know what's going on. We need new and fresh ideas for today's challenges. We need a vision for future generations. As a small business owner, I want to explore and promote opportunities to make us all successful. Let's create a brighter future for Clay County together. I'm Doug Cobb, running for Clay County Commissioner, and I approve this message. Paid for by Linda Cheatham.
Right now, everything's expensive. That includes things you need around the house. If your water heater, water softener, or well pump goes out, or even if your toilet stops working, you could be looking at a major expense. Don't let your next call to a plumber break the bank. Call John at Black Sheep Plumbing. John is a Hoosier lifer who takes pride in and stands behind his work. That's why all basic services and repairs with Black Sheep Plumbing come with a 2-year parts and labor guarantee, with water heaters having a 6-year parts and tank guarantee. Call or text Black Sheep Plumbing for all your needs today and speak directly with John, the owner. 765-315-7558. That's Black Sheep Plumbing at 765-315-7558.
Hi, I'm John Piper. I'm running for Congress in Indiana. I'm the only candidate in the United States of America exposing the crisis we have in mother's breast milk. Purdue University is a major player in that. Purdue is selling our veterinarians to out-of-state corporations for big money. Bobby Kennedy needs to know about it effective immediately. We are 55,000 veterinarians short across the United States. My two major opponents, Craig Haggard and Jim Barrett, are both protecting the Iranian terror cell in Plainfield, Indiana. I'm John Piper. I approve this message. Paid for Friends for Piper for Congress.
Welcome back, Rob Kendall Show. We're going to learn how to talk to the lawmakers today. I think this is really important because I think we have struggled, we being conservatives, we being liberty and freedom movement. I think we've lost a lot of battles because we don't know how to talk to the lawmakers. And, well, he's at great risk to many friendships and professional acquaintances. Former Senator John Crane joins us now. John, hello.
Rob, it is great to be with you. I will say this. It is great to be with you, but this is an unlikely conversation, right? I think it's fantastic that we've been able to get together and have this conversation. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Are you thinking in your mind all the business relationships that are ending now in real time as you've just said those things?
All my former friends.
Ask Merritt how it went for him. No,
I think as we've talked even offline, I think it's important to have good communication with a lot of people, and there needs to be a lot of divergent voices in the public space. And so I am grateful to be able to be with you and have this conversation.
All right. So you served as a Republican Hendricks County Senator for 2 terms, right?
Yeah, I was Hendricks and Putnam County, so
right.
District 24, for 2 terms from 2016 to 2024, when I then voluntarily term limited myself.
Good for you. Why?
Yeah.
Why did you do that? Because so many of your colleagues can't seem to do that.
Yeah, it was 2 big things, honestly. When I first ran, I'm very fervent about my Christian faith, and so I told people publicly, I know for a fact God called us to run. We'll see if he called us to win, and we were taking on the sitting state senator at the time. I hadn't run for office before. I'd come from a political family, but hadn't run for anything, and so we won.
Yeah. Now to let people know, I was almost you. I was going to run for that seat.
You entertained it for about a half a second and then decided radio was the...
I was like, talking about people is way more fun than being talked about.
Well, that's... I can speak from experience, and you're exactly right. It's hard to believe that's been over 10 years ago. But when we ran and we won, then I was serving in my first term. And, of course, we were coming up on 2020. And went through the same process, praying, fasting, talking to people, and felt like God had not released me from the tour of duty. And so we ran for re-election and we won. And I went from being David in the David and Goliath scenario in 2016 to being Goliath. And so we won that one. And then coming up on 2024, some things had changed. I began to sense a release, and it came down to a couple things. One, I wasn't getting any younger. So in 2023, I turned 50.
And no gray hair.
No,
it's amazing.
My genetics, I guess, or
unless
something.
You're cheating.
No, I'm not. I'm an all-natural guy. But I turned 50, which was a significant milestone for me, because all of a sudden you begin to realize, like, most of your life is actually in the rear view at this point, right? So you're looking in the windshield going, man, I don't know how much time I've got left, and I want to steward that time well. It was combined with the fact that my dad also passed away in early 2023 at age 86. And so you're thinking about life and legacy and all that. And I felt like I was doing good work in the Senate. Not perfect work, but certainly solid.
Yeah, I'll let you know where you screwed up.
Yeah, you did, more than once. And so I was evaluating all that. So that was a big piece. And then the other variable was this idea that politics is downstream from culture. Right. So
what do you mean by that?
Well, and it's not original to me. Andrew Breitbart is kind of the one that's given credit for coining the idea. A lot of people reference it. The idea is that as much as we talk about, and I would actually say that so many things are downstream from culture, right? Education's downstream from culture, pop entertainment's downstream from culture. But in politics, as much as we talk about being political leaders, if you think of the kind of quintessential worst caricature of the politician, it's putting your finger up in the wind to see which way it's blowing and then making your decisions accordingly. And that's more of a follower, right? Like, what are the people wanting me to do? And then I do it. I will tell you that is a big part of the process that we bristle against as citizens, but there's a bigger picture there that maybe we'll get into or not. But the idea is then that the culture is influencing the political process versus the political process influencing the culture.
So is that why okay, well, I guess, has the Republican Party changed since you were elected in 2016? If so, is that how? Is it because it seems like so many people, and I think we're seeing this play out now, where you've got all these challengers who are challenging solely on redistricting. Why? Because it made Trump mad. Yeah, but there's all these other issues. Yeah, but it's about redistricting and Trump's endorsement. Is that sort of, have politics changed in the past 10 years? Is it for the better?
I don't know that it's for the better. I also don't know that it's, limited to the last 10 years. It's fascinating. I remember.
So it's not just Trump.
No, no. I remember going. One of my kids we were going on a field trip to Springfield, Illinois, to see Abraham Lincoln and all this stuff. And I remember walking through this museum and reading and looking at the editorial cartoons back in the 1860s, right? Which, of course, there was some historical context that we don't quite get because we live in the current era, but it was brutal.
Oh, it's as bad as today, huh?
So it's just, I think politics is what we tend to think of it. And I'm only half joking when I talk to audiences and I say what makes sense, because if you understand the definition of politics, right, like poly is many and ticks are blood-sucking vermin, right? And that's what people assume. And so for me, I do think that we could do a lot better. And I think that's one of the things that I felt, which guided me into the process. But it's also one of the things that has only amplified having been in.
Okay, so John Crane is our guest. He's a former Republican senator. You have a very valuable purpose of being here today, because I need you to help me and help our audience understand how we better communicate with lawmakers to get a desired result. And what sort of triggered this for me was the property tax deal, where we put 1,000 people in the State House. We get tens of thousands of emails and phone calls sent out. And you're thinking, okay, this is the governor's top issue. It's we've done our part. We've gotten all these people to respond. And ultimately, it was a colossal nothing. We didn't succeed. And so it got me thinking at the time, we got to figure out how to better communicate with people. So when you were a senator, what was the most effective way to move you on an issue?
Relationships.
Well, that's why I failed. In all seriousness, that's a big piece of it. If I can build a meaningful relationship, and I don't mean like intimate, my best friend is my senator, but I mean approach it in the sense, and I think I mentioned this to you previous meeting, is we met. It was like something out of The Godfather. We're in a very dark room. I sat with my back to the wall.
Yeah, right. It's this idea that government is human. Right. As much as we assume, we talk about it the government this, the government that, and reinforce in our minds, I think, that this misconception that the government is this disembodied bureaucratic machine over there or out there somewhere. And yes, there is a government structure in D.C., in Washington, in our state capitals. But at the end of the day, government is human. Right. Would you
meet with people, like if somebody sent you a thing and said, I'd like to meet with you, would you do that? Or like, what was the process for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it depends. Generally, yes, it would depend on how they're going to choose to treat me. Honestly, like it's like it's one of those where, look, I'll make my time available for people that are serious, because serious people want to come in and have serious conversations. And I would meet with anybody from any side of the political spectrum. Now, I have a certain set of beliefs.
Right.
We can have a thoughtful conversation. At the end of the day, we might go, okay, we're going to have to agree to disagree, but we can have that conversation.
Did you understand why people are so angry? Like, do you feel the anger is warranted towards the government? Because I look at it like, I just see very little benefit for me. It seems like it just keeps getting more and more expensive, and the government keeps asking more, and I keep getting less for my money. Do you understand why people are so upset?
Absolutely. I mean, that's why all of us, I'm going to generalize. That's why all of us run for office.
Yeah.
Right? Some people just scream from their front porch, and some people go, all right, I'm going to go do something.
Right.
And as I tell people, when it came to politics, I used to have all the answers. And then I got elected to office. And then all of a sudden you realize, holy smokes, like, this is really complicated. There are actually really smart people in here that are focused on a variety of different things, which is good because I'm only smart in a couple things, and I've got to be able to vote on a bunch of things. But to your point, is the anger warranted? I think absolutely. It's what we choose to do with the anger that determines whether or not we're going to actually see progress in our desired outcome.
So this is part of the bridge, right? John Crane, former Republican senator, is our guest. It's a tough ask for people seeing the things that are happening to them and then go, hey, you got to call up your senator, be nice to him, though, because, it's like people are so upset. But then, hey, you got to be nice to him.
Here's the thing. Yes, but do you actually want to move the needle?
Right.
Right. So it's what I call golden rule diplomacy. Treat people the way you would want to be treated. So when I talk to audiences, I will often say, because they'll express that and frustration, and it's like, okay, put yourself in my shoes.
Right.
If somebody's come, because I literally have had people yell at me, make fun of me, call me names, spit at me.
Well, I've never spat at you.
You never spat at me. You never spat at me, and you never grabbed me.
Oh, yeah, I have obeyed all applicable rules and societal regulations.
Right. But it's been done, right, to me.
Yeah,
and it's like, if we could step back and set our anger on the shelf for half a second and say, if I were on the receiving end of that, would that move the needle for me?
Yeah.
And the answer is probably not, right? Because the other piece to this is generally you've got some type A personalities that typically run for elected office.
Right.
You have to have enough confidence.
Yeah, y'all are a bunch of narcissists.
Well,
no,
there are some that borderline on that, right? But you have to have enough type A that if somebody comes at me, it doesn't cause me to necessarily just crumble.
Right.
It actually humanly would cause me to probably dig my heels in even more versus somebody who comes and says, hey, they're reasonable, they're thoughtful. Yes, we disagree, but I recognize you're dealing with this issue and that, but we're trying to address this. How can we figure this out together? And you actually move that needle farther.
Do these guys you served with, do they think they're doing a good job? Like, do they, at the end
if they were to grade themselves?
Like, if I hooked him up, if I could get him in a truth serum, right? Which, of course, would never happen. But, like, do they at the end of the day go, hey, man, things are going really well in Indiana right now. I'm doing a heck of a job.
I think that we obviously, the human tendency is we tend to put our very best self out.
Right.
It's like the Facebook version of me or the social media version of me. It's all the highlight reel.
Right.
So we have a tendency when we're talking like, hey, how's life going? And I will not go, well, life really is hard because of this, or I messed up there. We will give the highlight reel. So I think we have a tendency as human beings to self-assess with a bias towards the positive. Right. But that being said, it's also relative, right? Because there's a variety of things where I wish we could have moved the needle a lot farther in a desired direction. But there are so many competing forces that, you have a lot of, I would say, uninformed, inexperienced voices in the culture that want us to throw a Hail Mary on every bill. And it's like, I can't get a Hail Mary. Like, we're just trying to get 3 yards to get a first down. You know what I mean? And so if you measure it based on incrementalism and looking at we're making progress. I might give myself a B, not an A, but somebody who thinks that everything's a Hail Mary, we're all getting Fs. And it doesn't matter which side you're on. So to your point earlier, I use this as an example all the time. In 2000, I think it was 18, the Red for Ed rally was down at the State House. They had 15,000 pro public school advocates.
Work? The rallies work? Did I waste my time putting all those people in the State House?
They asked me that at the time. And I said, well, I think everybody has the right constitutionally to peaceable assembly. Right. But I remember parking in the north lot. They had a bunch of people trying to get in the main door. And finally, the state police just were like, look, there's a hazard here. They cut them off. But everybody else...
I think that's the quote of the interview, John. The state police considered the red people a hazard.
Well, in the sense of the number of people. So the rest of them formed these two, probably 40 people deep swaths, and created this corridor in the parking lot on the north lot, which meant you had to walk to Ohio Street, turn, and then walk the gauntlet up there while they're yelling and banging on stuff. And people would did it work? And I said, well, let me tell you what did work. First of all, you have the right to peaceable assembly. That's fine. And I think more people should take that opportunity. But the more effective thing happened 30 minutes after I walked in, when I met with Representative Jeff Thompson. He and I met with a group of people from Danville, where they had a referendum that was figuratively, if not literally, splitting the community down the middle.
You know who they hired to defeat that referendum?
You.
That's right.
Okay.
And what happened to that referendum?
It got defeated.
That's right.
But here's the point. We had in that room, in his office, probably 3 or 4 people on one side of that issue and 3 or 4 people on the other. And for an hour, he and I mediated this conversation. I don't know what else came out of that, but to me, one of the biggest things that came out of that was both people walking out realizing that the enemy is not actually sitting across the table from me. That we both want what we believe to be best for our Danville community. We might have different ways that we go about that. So to me, we made a lot more progress in that hour than the 15,000 people that were yelling.
Right.
And I made this comment to one of the folks afterward who was a public school advocate. I said, well, they said, did it work? I gave that same explanation. But I said, you know, the other thing, if I were doing it, is I wouldn't do it in November, and we're not going into a budget year.
Right.
So that was one of their big things, increase teacher pay. I said, and I also would have waited in the spring and done it over spring break so you don't get dinged for being out of the classroom. He goes, oh, that's a good point. Maybe we'll do that next time. I was like, oh, shoot.
John Crane, former state senator, is our guest. Couple minutes left with him. So if you can talk directly to our audience right now and say, you need to start doing these things like now, which will help you, whether it is property tax or utility bills or whatever it might be. Like, what are some things people should start doing today in terms of becoming better advocates with dealing with senators or House members or whatever?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a number of things I think people should do. Number one, they should educate themselves before taking action. And by that, I mean understand, the issue that you want to advocate on, understand what bills are being filed or not filed, what the nuances are in the bills, understand who the players are, understand.
A lot of your colleagues don't even understand that stuff.
No,
John.
I don't disagree with you that's a continual educational process, right? And on average, in the legislative session, there are 1,000 to 1,400 bills that are filed.
Too many, right?
Absolutely. But that's the nature of it right now. And we've worked in the time I was there to try to increase those limits.
Yeah.
On how many are filed, but you got 1,000 bills that you're trying to figure out, right? And so you got to navigate all that. But from the outside, there are key bills, and you got to figure out how the process works. I remember, seeing a guy that was advocating, like vote against whatever the bill was, didn't realize that the bill had died 2 weeks ago, right? It's like, okay, I'm glad you're here with your sign, but you can go online and you can look that up, and you can, so you got to do that work. The other biggest thing is get out and go to events where your elected officials are. We are not as inaccessible as people assume. It's just, take Hendricks County. You got to get up at 7 a.m. and go to the legislative breakfast. If you don't want to get up at 7 a.m., okay, then you missed an opportunity. But don't then say, well, you never listened to us. Or there's another one that we send out a pre-session mailer that has 6 to 8 issues, and it's just, what do you think about this? What do you think's the big issue? I would ask people all the time, because it got sent to 39,000 households in my district.
Right. Oh, I got them. I think I posted a photo with one of them one time.
Yeah, you did. And you know what? You were part of a very small group of people that actually bothered to respond. 1.4% was the average return rate. So it's like...
Oh, so only of those surveys, only about less than 2% of them come back.
Absolutely. Yeah. My son was like, well, why don't you put them online? That'll be easier. I said, yeah, we do. And it goes to 3.5%. So people who say, well, you never listen to us, I gently say, because you don't actually come and talk to us, right? So you've got to make sure you maintain that communication. But the biggest thing goes back to what I said earlier, this idea that government is human and golden rule diplomacy, treating people the way you want to be treated. So if I am working to try to build that relationship, I maybe even jot you a note, hey, thanks for what you're doing. I'm sure it's not easy. And that's it. Guess what? Amidst all the criticism, that little ray of light comes through and you're like, oh, this person's reasonable.
True story. You once, I don't know if you remember this, you once sent me a note at WIBC about an interview I did.
That's right.
And you did send that. And I had that until the day I left WIBC. Well, I left the Emmis building, and then I was told to leave WIBC permanently a short time after that. Yeah. But so you really did.
All right.
do that.
So tell me, candidly, how did that note make you feel when you got it?
Well, I thought maybe
generally.
Well, you're a politician, so I thought maybe you were scheming something initially.
Okay,
but
once you got past that part.
No, I think that's very much who you are, and I think that's why it was a good conversation to have you in here today to talk about, and you and I had this conversation directly. My goal of this show is to take all the stuff we did before and figure out how to be better at it going forward.
Well, and I applaud you for that, because
one person did.
Well, we need it. We need it.
Yeah.
And we are blessed to live in the United States of America, where we have the ability to be able to have a voice. In my role now in doing leadership development, it brings me all over the world. And so I've been blessed to be able to develop a much broader sense of things globally, which only reinforces how blessed we actually are. With all of our problems in the U.S.,
right,
we are actually blessed by comparison. And so we need to take and steward this opportunity seriously to say, okay, how can I be a thoughtful voice? So I'm sincere. I applaud you for that, which is why I told you, look, I'll come on the show.
Great.
Because I want to be a part of that. And I think that it can demonstrate, in this particular case, where this has been more of an antagonistic relationship for many, many years.
Right.
Doesn't have to be. And I think that when you come together collaboratively, you can actually catalyze more positive impact.
Yeah, I'm a dad now, so I don't have...
That does change the game.
We had that conversation.
It changes the game.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, next generation, future generations moves from theory to reality.
That's right.
And you go, okay, what do I actually need to do here?
If people want to learn more about you, you're available for parties, bar mitzvahs, large events.
Yeah, no,
Tell us what you do now.
Thank you. I do a lot of speaking everywhere. I do a lot of leadership training and consulting. And I'll travel, as I said, near and far to do all that. People can find out what I'm up to at JBC Leadership, craneleadership.org.
Craneleadership.org.
Yeah, craneleadership.org. And they can, my company is JBC Leadership. And that will give people an opportunity to, if people want me to come and share with an audience or do whatever, I am always open to doing that.
Well, now that your life is ruined because you've been here with me, just as Merritt found out, you can now be a pundit. So you can come on anytime you want. John Crane, thank you.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to come back. Thanks, Rob.
You're watching Rob Kendall Show.
Are you seeing cracks in mortar, moisture working through walls, facade or structural failure beginning to surface? Bramwell Mackay sets the standard for exterior and structural building solutions. Our 40-year master masons and industry experts address moisture intrusion, failing foundations, masonry deterioration, and more. From preserving historic landmarks to addressing modern building envelope issues, Bramwell Mackay delivers full-spectrum service with white-glove professionalism. In Indianapolis, call 812-33-BRICK. 812-33-BRICK.
Hi, I'm John Piper. I'm running for Congress in Indiana. I'm the only candidate in the United States of America exposing the crisis we have in mother's breast milk. Purdue University is a major player in that. Purdue is selling our veterinarians to out-of-state corporations for big money. Bobby Kennedy needs to know about it effective immediately. We are 55,000 veterinarians short across the United States. My two major opponents, Craig Haggard and Jim Barrett, are both protecting the Iranian terror cell in Plainfield, Indiana. I'm John Piper. I approve this message. Paid for Friends for Piper for Congress.
Your bathroom fan could be secretly costing you thousands of dollars in damages. Most people don't even know this until the damage is done. With over 18 years of bathroom remodeling experience, here are 3 signs your fan is failing you without spending a dime on inspections. Sign number 1 is if you have foggy mirrors after you shower. This shows that your fan isn't pulling out enough moisture, which creates the perfect environment for mold. If you have a properly functioning bathroom fan that is the right size for your space, you shouldn't see much fogginess on your bathroom mirror at all. Sign number 2 is if you have bubbling, cracking, or peeling paint in your bathroom. This means moisture is soaking into your walls, slowly breaking down drywall, and even causing the wood framing behind it to rot. Sign number 3 is if you have mold buildup on your fan, ceilings, or walls. This is terrible for your health, but also could wreck your bathroom, costing you a fortune. If you're noticing any of these signs, here's what you can do.
Call Vent Savvy today at 317-300-4434. That's 317-300-4434 and mention Rob for a free attic inspection.
I'm Doug Cobb for Clay County Commissioner. I'm running to bring transparency back to our local government. As a concerned citizen, I want to know what's going on. We need new and fresh ideas for today's challenges. We need a vision for future generations. As a small business owner, I want to explore and promote opportunities to make us all successful. Let's create a brighter future for Clay County together. I'm Doug Cobb, running for Clay County Commissioner, and I approve this message. Paid for by Linda Cheeson.
Hey guys, welcome back. Rob Kendall Show. Thanks so much for joining us today. Got a big segment coming up for you. Before we do that, though, if you haven't yet, please hit the little thumbs up button, hit the like. That really helps us out. And of course, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. And if you're feeling super generous, if you like what we're giving you here on the Rob Kendall Show, share the feed. Let your friends know that you're watching, listening to Rob Kendall Show. And, of course, last but certainly not least, if you haven't done so yet, we have a fabulous website. We're very proud of it. RobKendallShow.com. RobKendallShow.com. We've got the live feed there. We've got all the archived podcast platforms. You go back and listen or watch the program. We articles of some of our favorite segments each day, have transcripts of our favorite segments each day. And last but certainly not least, we do have that support button up there. If you're like, man, I just love watching this show, listening to this show every day, hit that support button, $1, $10, whatever it might be. We take it all. We're not picky. Support button there at robkendallshow.com. Let me tell you about our friends at Vent Savvy. Can I tell you something most homeowners don't realize? A lot of bathroom exhaust fans were installed wrong from day one. They're either too small for the room or they're not even vented properly to the outside. And so when you take a hot shower, that moisture isn't leaving your house. It's getting pushed up into the ceiling or attic, and that's where mold and insulation problems start. So I got to call Vent Savvy. VentSavvy.com, VentSavvy.com. Tell them you heard about it on our show. You heard about them, Rob Kendall Show. John, the owner, come out to your house free of charge, free attic inspection. He'll take a look around, see if you got any problems. If you don't, he's going to say, great, you're good to go. Thanks for listening to Rob. Call me if you need something. But if you do have something going on, you can spot it now. You can head it off at the pass now, and you're not in anything. You make all the choices. Free attic inspection, VentSavvy.com. Tell me you heard about him on the Rob Kendall Show. Okay, so there was big news yesterday. We didn't have time to get into it just because there's so much going on with the Matt Gentry interview, and I touched on it briefly and said, hey, I'm going to come back to it today because I wanted to give the allotted amount of time. And this is a big deal. Look, it's a big deal because of the betrayal and the amount of people who've gone to church at this place in central Indiana. It's a massive, massive church now with its 4 campuses, et cetera. But it's also a big deal because of who this guy is and his tie into the number 2 guy in the state of Indiana, the lieutenant governor. The guy we're about to talk about is the best friend, the boss, and the podcast co-host of the lieutenant governor of the state of Indiana. And so it's a big deal what this guy does and the lieutenant governor's unwillingness, not only not hold him accountable, but to say anything about it. So let's talk about the body cam footage of the raid of Nathan Peternell's house. So this body cam footage finally became available to the media last week. I know somebody who got it. they're working on their own stories, their own media opportunities. And so they said, hey, I have this. I'm willing to show it to you. I'm willing to play for you, whatever you want. Just don't tell anybody about it yet because I'm working on my own stuff. I said, okay, great. And we'll get into specifically what I wanted to see, which I did see, which I knew I was going to see in just a second. However, other media outlets, because this has been a national story, finally, dawned on them, hey, this stuff is available too, because the case has been adjudicated, and they requested it. Ultimately, Law and Crime Network, which is a massive, massive organization on YouTube, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of viewers and followers, got the body cam footage. They did a story on it, put it up, and it became available to the public. So what we're talking about is the raid on Nathan Peternell's home. Nathan Peternell, the lead pastor at Life Church, the boss, podcast co-host, and best friend of Micah Beckwith, the lieutenant governor. And his home was raided related to heinous crimes against children committed by his adult son, Jonathan, who was living at the house at the time. And one of the many things, but one of the things that has been, and look, guys, by the way, I have no idea where I'm going with this. I'm just going to keep talking. It's just all free thought at this point. I tried to organize my thoughts and put them together, but the pain I feel, the hurt I have for these people is too great. So I'm just going to start talking and it'll go wherever it goes. So if I'm ping-ponging around on stuff, just bear with me. There's a lot of hurt and a lot of grief with these people here that I've tried really hard to work through. So Jonathan Peternell, the adult son of Nathan Peternell, who was living at Nathan's house, and by the way, when you say adult, he was 24 years old, was committing heinous crimes against children on the internet. And some organizations that are on YouTube will describe those things. I'm not going to do it. If you want to know, you can look it up. It's all played out in the court documents. It's horrible, horrible stuff. The group that he was a part of, the things that he was doing, it was heinous. And Nathan, and to some extent his wife, didn't tell anyone that this had happened. So this was back in September. Law enforcement got tipped off about this back in June, I believe it was, and then put the case together for the search warrant. And by September, they went to the Peternell's house and raided the home to seize devices and other items so they could continue their investigation. And when this house was seized, when the house was raided and the devices were seized, people inside the church was not told. The church was not publicly made aware of what was going on. Also, as part of this seizure, it came to light that Nathan Peternell and his wife had a massive personal sex video collection, which Jonathan, their adult son, who had committed the heinous crimes against children, had access to. And we'll come back to that in a second. They didn't tell anyone that this had happened and what it was related to. I talked to multiple people who were in some capacity in church leadership at Life Church. After all this came to light, they said they described it to us, passed it off to us, as though it was almost a Chris Hansen type situation. Where, yes, this happened, but they told us basically it was like an adult talking to an underage girl. It doesn't make it okay, but it certainly wasn't described as on the level of what actually took place, which is beyond words. As someone with a small child, it makes me sick. I'm disgusted by these people. And then after people started going, well, this doesn't make any sense, the Peternells started trying to say they didn't know. They didn't know the capacity of what Jonathan was accused of. And I said, that's bull. There's no way if the police raided the house, because I read the probable cause affidavit. Like, I obviously knew what was going on. I wish I hadn't, because there's horrific stuff in there of what he did. Jonathan Peternell did. But I said, there's no way if the police seized all the devices, essentially electronic devices in this house, and they had a search warrant, that they didn't tell Nathan and his wife, Nathan who owns the house, what they were there for and what this guy did. And they said, no, they're keeping up the story they didn't know. And I said, okay, we're going to find out soon enough. Because once this case is adjudicated, once it's resolved, the body cam footage will become publicly available. And this is important because Jonathan Peternell, after the home was searched, was allowed back into Life Church where little kids, including my daughter, were present. I know. I saw him. I know I had a conversation with him. And if the story that they're trying to stick to was he was always under supervision, he was not. I saw him walking in the halls without anybody there. So he was not being monitored 24/7. So the body cam footage becoming publicly available is very important because it proves, or in this case, disproves, the claim made by Nathan Peternell and his wife that they didn't know. Or the story that they were allegedly telling to some people in positions of leadership of Life Church who were also doubting the story at the time, which is, hey, it's bad, but it's not that bad. It's just a guy who's made a horrible choice. The body cam footage, and again, it's about 20 hours of body cam footage. I thought the law and crime hour that they did on it hit a lot of the high points. There's a lot more interesting stuff. And look, the Peternell saga is not done, and the Jonathan Peternell saga is not done. I know other people who are preparing stuff on this story, and I think I don't know for sure, but I think there's a lot more coming. Could be wrong. The body cam footage shows clearly, and I knew this last week because I asked the person who had the body cam footage, and they played it for me. So I knew the stuff that was in the law and crime stuff that came out. And I know a lot more stuff that isn't in that stuff that was aired by Law and Crime. The body cam footage clearly shows both Nathan and his wife were made fully aware, and they acknowledge it, what Jonathan Peternell was accused of at the time and ultimately pled guilty to. Heinous, horrible crimes against children. Disgusting, vile acts. Not some adult making a bad decision talking to a 17-year-old. Not some adult having a momentary lapse of judgment that can be reformed. This guy's a sicko. He's a predator. He clearly enjoyed what he was doing. And by the way, in the body cam footage, when the police show up, you can see from the moment they arrive the look on Jonathan Peternell's face. He knows. He knows why they're there. Like if you were doing something, like you made some lapse in judgment as a 24-year-old and you're talking to a 17-year-old, again, doesn't make it okay. But you would be like, man, what did I do? Why are you guys here? There's no shock in his face. There's no surprise. He knows exactly why they're there. And really, if you know the parents and you know how to see through their BS because you've known them for years and you've seen the whole picture play out, they know why they're there too. That they're not all that surprised either. Once you cut through the acting, that they had a pretty good idea too. I don't think that's a stretch. So you have, and by the way, one thing that nobody's talking about, Jonathan names an attorney in the body cam footage. He doesn't want to talk to the cops. He wants an attorney, which is his right. His right. He knows why they're there. He knows what he did. There's no surprise on his face. I mean, if somebody raided your house, accused you, you'd be like, I didn't do this. This is outlandish. I demand justice. None of that. None of that's happening. He's very somber. He's very subdued. He knows what's going down. He names, and this is very interesting, and nobody's talking about this, he names prominent Noblesville attorney Ray Adler as his attorney, who is an attorney for Life Church. What's weird, though, is ultimately Ray Adler does not end up representing Jonathan Peternell in court. He had a public defender. Well, who's Ray Adler? Well, he works with Devin Norrick. Who's Devin Norrick? Devin Norrick was the in-house counsel for Micah Beckwith, who was alleged by the eyewitness, who has told her story to the authorities, was viewing and was viewing and sharing the artificial intelligence pornography of State Representative Craig Haggart's wife. Isn't that wild how all of this stuff, it just finds a way to be connected? But you won't hear about it anywhere else because you got to dig and you got to dig and you got to dig. So he names Adler as his attorney, ultimately ends up not representing Jonathan Peternell in court. But there is zero doubt that Nathan Peternell and his wife knew what their son was accused of. And if you know how to read body language, you know they weren't surprised. They weren't all that shocked when you cut past the acting. And what they do, they didn't tell the church. They didn't tell me. They didn't tell parents of small kids. They let that monster back into church, hid it from everyone. And by the way, the question everybody with kids should be asking if you've gone to Life Church, how did Jonathan Peternell get those images of his parents having sex? Well, he hacked into them. Well, if he hacked into those, what other images? Because Jonathan's mother was the photographer for the church and photographed little kids. What other images of little kids at Life Church did he get access to? The Peternells won't answer that, nor will anyone still left in leadership at Life Church, including the Lieutenant Governor, Micah Beckwith. So let's get to him for a second, shall we? Because Micah Beckwith, again, best friend, podcast co-host. Jesus, Sex, and Politics was the name of the podcast, in case you're curious. They haven't done a podcast since Jonathan's arrest, by the way. Kind of convenient, right? Oh, and by the way, Nathan and Micah, or one of them, deleted very convenient old episodes. I'm talking about going back years of that podcast where they talk about stuff that was relevant to Jonathan, what became Jonathan's arrest. Nathan and Micah, real tough guys, real vocal, real Billy badasses, except Micah won't say a word about this. Your best friend, your boss, your podcast co-host, his kid goes down for massively heinous crimes against children when your church partners with Project Rescue, which is designed, and I've given huge money to Project Rescue. You guys know this. The sales of my I Hate Rob Kendall, I Love Rob Kendall t-shirts, all my ports of that went to Project Rescue. Believe in the organization. You partner with them. Their job is to stamp out human sex trafficking, and your boy goes down for massive crimes against children who are human sex trafficked all over this country and all over the globe, and you have nothing to say. And we're also led to believe that the guy you've been thick as thieves with for years, you go on trips with, your families associate, hang out together, that this happens to him and he doesn't tell you anything? He doesn't say a word to you? If that's true, look at the outrage I have. Look at the outrage I have for not being told. Micah Beckwith has 2 small kids too. How could you not have just public outrage and scorn if you knew your kids were led around that monster? That monster was led back into church where you preach and you weren't told? I think a lot of us have a really hard time believing that Micah Beckwith didn't know what was going on. And his silence now about all of it speaks volumes. Life Church, Nathan, the leadership, Micah, they've hurt a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. Because a lot of people like me wanted to believe in them. I go back to, and I never do this, and I think that's why I'm so disappointed in myself. And I'm disappointed in myself for a variety of reasons. One, I told people to vote for Braun because I thought Micah would be, at the end of the day, a check and balance. He hasn't been anything like that. But I also told people to go to Life Church. I gotta hold that. Why? Because I only saw the public side of it. Public side of it seemed fine. Public side of it seemed good. Life Church, a lot of people at Life Church did a lot of great work in the community, helped a lot of people. They did things like Project Rescue that I was a believer in. And I got to wake up each day knowing that I told people to go to that church. I advised people, hey, yeah, they're great. Not knowing any of this stuff was going on behind the scenes. And I go back to a conversation. Look, my dad, for most of you know this, but for those of you who don't, my dad was a federal law enforcement officer for 20 years. He dealt with the worst of the worst every day. Nobody was better at seeing through people than my dad. And from the first time he met Micah and Nathan until the day all of this came out, he would tell me the same thing every single time he would have an interaction with them. Do not trust those two. Every single time he would say, I did this for a living. And I see a lot in those two that I saw in the guys I dealt with every day. And every time I'd say, oh, Dad, you're just cynical, right? These are good guys. It's proven exactly right. These guys are shysters. They're con men. I've used this phrase for a long time now, and I fell for it. Micah Beckwith and Nathan Peternell are American Greed characters. If you guys have never seen American Greed, it's a phenomenal documentary-based series on CNBC where they profile great financial criminals, people who steal from people, who take from people, con men. And it's been on for years and years and years now. You can go watch old episodes. It's really good. It's a really good series. And there are a lot of the traits in Micah Beckwith and Nathan Peternell that you see on those American Greed characters. But one of the things you realize about the American Greed characters, the people only realize they're being scammed when all the money's out of the account because they're so believable. They're so good. They're so convincing. In the case of Micah Beckwith, he got away with BS for years because he was able to hide behind his position as a pastor. His ability to garner trust with people, abuse it, but garner trust and present this aw shucks likable guy image. Con men, and I was having a conversation with a member of the media the other day, and they said this, and it's true. We were talking about this, and they said, con men are great at figuring out what you need to hear and convincing you they can deliver on it. And I realized now from the moment I met Micah Beckwith, whatever, it's been 5 years ago now, that's what he was doing. He knew I wanted better government so bad. He knew I wanted the property tax thing fixed so bad. It was like, whatever Rob needs to hear, because we need Rob to get elected. I'll just tell him what he wants to hear. The problem for Micah was once he got in the government, he couldn't hide anymore. He couldn't hide behind the church. All this stuff started playing out publicly, like with the car, or like with going to the NBA Finals with the high-profile known felon. And, I mean, it's an endless list. I'm not going to go into all of it here. Here's the biggest issue out of all of this. They're not sorry. They're sorry they got caught. Nathan, he's not sorry. He's coming back. He's on his little, what are they calling it? Restorative process, where he just basically goes on a 3-month vacation. And he's coming back. His brother-in-law is running Life Church. That's who's in charge right now. A guy who, by the way, told me he was leaving, that he was disgusted by what happened. He's out of there. Well, he's still in there. He's still there. Nathan's coming back. Micah makes money off Life Church. Micah's brothers make money off Life Church. Micah's family profits off Life Church. And as long as the profit factory is there, these people will grift it till the last dollar is sucked out of it. Micah Beckwith is the number 2 guy in the state of Indiana. And even if he doesn't give a damn about property taxes or utility bills or the IEDC, he's willing to lie about all that. This is so much bigger than that. This is the abuse of little kids. Your best friend, for a period of time, as long as he could get away with it, covered up his adult son abusing little kids. You have little kids, Micah. How could you not just be outraged about this? How could you not spend every second demanding his resignation, demanding to know the truth, demanding to know whose kids at Life Church potentially got exposed to this monster? Instead, the only commentary we've got from Micah Beckwith was when he introduced the superintendent for the Assemblies of God, which is the overseeing body of Life Church at Noblesville, gave this guy praise, gave this guy adulation. And you know what that guy proceeded to do? He verbally, well, I was going to say verbally undressed, but given Life Church, that's probably a bad description to use. He verbally tore down the church for asking questions about Nathan. This guy, it was disgusting, man. I was watching it on the internet. I wanted to puke. He compared Nathan to Jesus. And anybody like me who's asking questions, who wanted to know, has my kid been exposed to this monster? You know what you were? You were a doubtful disciple. If you are in Life Church, get out. Do not expose your kids to these people. Do not expose yourself to these people. They're disgusting. Every single one of them. Every single one of them. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, producer Jason will read the best YouTube comments of the day, brought to you by Black Sheep Plumbing. You're watching Rob Kendall Show.
Hi, I'm Lauren Wilson, a realtor with Properties. Born and raised right here in central Indiana and a Hoosier through and through. Selling your home is a massive undertaking, and I completely understand what that is. That's why when you work with me, we put a great plan together to make sure that when your home comes to the market, it is in the best light possible. Again, I'm Lauren Wilson, 317-590-2290. 317-590-2290. Let's put a plan together and get your home sold.
I'm Doug Cobb for Clay County Commissioner. I'm running to bring transparency back to our local government. As a concerned citizen, I want to know what's going on. We need new and fresh ideas for today's challenges. We need a vision for future generations. As a small business owner, I want to explore and promote opportunities to make us all successful. Let's create a brighter future for Clay County together. I'm Doug Cobb, running for Clay County Commissioner, and I approve this message, paid for by Linda Cheesem.
Right now, everything's expensive. That includes things you need around the house. If your water heater, water softener, or well pump goes out, or even if your toilet stops working, you could be looking at a major expense. Don't let your next call to a plumber break the bank. Call John at Black Sheep Plumbing. John is a Hoosier lifer who takes pride in and stands behind his work. That's why all basic services and repairs with Black Sheep Plumbing come with a 2-year parts and labor guarantee, with water heaters having a 6-year parts and tank guarantee. Call or text Black Sheep Plumbing for all your needs today and speak directly with John, the owner. 765-315-7558. That's Black Sheep Plumbing at 765-315-7558.
Hi, I'm John Piper. I'm running for Congress in Indiana. I'm the only candidate in the United States of America exposing the crisis we have in mother's breast milk. Purdue University is a major player in that. Purdue is selling our veterinarians to out-of-state corporations for big money. Bobby Kennedy needs to know about it effective immediately. We are 55,000 veterinarians short across the United States. My two major opponents, Craig Haggard and Jim Barrett, are both protecting the Iranian terror cell in Plainfield, Indiana. I'm John Piper. I approve this message. Paid for Friends for Piper for Congress.
Hello, friends. Welcome back. Rob Kendall Show. If you haven't done so yet, please hit that like button. Let us know you were here today. Subscribe to the channel and share the feed. Those are 3 things we need from you. We'll get to producer Jason with the best YouTube comments of the day in just a moment. Before we do that, though, one of the biggest complaints people have with real estate is never actually talking to their agent. That's why we love Lauren Wilson. Lauren Wilson has spent her life right here in central Indiana. She's a military vet. She'd love to hear from you. Whether you're in the market to buy or sell a home or not, get that person on the speed dial who, when that time comes, you already got somebody in your corner. Lauren Wilson with Properties. She'd love to get to know you regardless of what place you're at in life, what situation you're at in life. 317-590-2290. 317-590-2290. And with that, we welcome in producer Jason. Everyone's favorite part of the show where we read you, we make you the star. You, the YouTube chatter, the fabulous people who stay with us throughout the course of the program today. We'll read some of your best comments. Jason, hello.
I know it's my mom's favorite part of the show, so that's why we always have to get this in.
I love it.
Did you emotionally recover from the last segment there, Rob?
It
seemed like
the damage those people, and they don't feel bad about it at all. That's the thing. I mean, that's
disgusting.
It is.
You know what's a shame is when people they get involved in a church maybe for the first time, and this is the experience they have, and then forevermore it's like organized religion is not for me. They just found the wrong place. I had the same experience in Indianapolis Baptist Temple. Reverend Greg Dixon. My dad was like, there's something wrong with that guy. He's going to be in prison one day. I think he did. Maybe not, allegedly. Black Sheep Plumbing, sponsor of the chat. Right now, everything's expensive. That includes things you need around the house. If your water heater, water softener, or well pump goes out, or even if your toilet stops working, you could be looking at a major expense. Don't let your next call to the plumber break the bank. Call John. Black Sheep Plumbing, 765-315-7558. One more time, write this down. Learn it, love it, live it. 765-317-7558. Write that down. You may need it in an emergency one time.
All right, best comments of the day. Yeah, I mean, it's gross, man, because it's like we're talking about little kids here. It's bad enough to break the hearts of adults or let adults down or not follow through, but it's like you're talking about heinous crimes against little kids.
You know, and that's a story. I still think a lot of people don't know the details or what's going on when you bring that up, the Life Church and the names involved, because you still have people even in the chat are like, this is so bizarre. Where's this church and what's going on? It's one of those deals where everybody is so used to corruption in church that it's just like, oh, well, that's just another church. And now I think people are starting to think, wait a minute, maybe there's more to that story than just what we've heard.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, I'm also disappointed in, and I don't know, disappointed is not the right word because these people are scumbags too, but it's like Braun photo ops with Micah. Braun goes out and like buddies up with Micah. Why? Because he wants those Turning Point people to support him. And I'm disappointed in the Turning Point people too. It's like all these people who do photo ops with him, who go to events with him. How could you not be demanding that he answer these questions? Like, this is not some public policy disagreement. This is heinous crimes against little kids. And it is, there was no doubt for me before. I know how law enforcement works, grew up in a law enforcement household, but there's no doubt to me or any reasonable person now, after seeing that body, these people knew what this guy was accused of, and they weren't all that surprised.
If people were not morally bankrupt in general, you wouldn't have a show, Rob, because we wouldn't be talking about politicians.
That's true.
All right, let's get on with it. Carol, 1776. Good morning, everyone. Waiting for another Rob cast to enlighten us and those sneaky politicians. MLM Warriors, I can't wait to hear today's comments around 11:30. A little better timing there, MLM Warriors. We'll give you tomorrow to make that up. It's 11:45. Steve Green, let's beat yesterday's numbers. Need to show more folks the light. Yesterday, a lot of numbers on the show, Rob.
Yeah, it was a great response, and I think, you know, people are very passionate about, and this is... It's amazing. Like, our elected officials don't see what the issue with the IEDC is, or maybe they do and they just don't care. But that's probably what it is, right? And I thought Gentry was honest. I thought he was very candid about what went down, and he doesn't see a problem with the IEDC. Like, that was what's fascinating to me, was him trying to separate. Well, this is a different part of the IEDC. This is not the Three Kings people. Those were the people that are in charge. It's the same organization. Like, oh, this is all above board and fine. Sure, that was heinous, but this is fine. I was like, man, you're losing people when you say that.
I think he lost people when he admitted he'd never heard of Matlock. I mean, what is up with that? More than half of your voting population's got to be over the age of, 50, 60 years old. Everybody knows who I mean, next time you talk to him, drop a Golden Girls reference and see if he picks up on that. If he doesn't, he needs to be out.
And the thing that got buried in there, because we just were focused on all the other stuff, the fact that you have the Gentrys, who are one of the most prominent Republican families in the state, and he come out and said, dump Diego. I mean, that's not getting any attention. And it was like, well, first guy to finally publicly say it.
Give him credit for that. That was a good part of it. All right. A new one, and I think I am his 888. I am his 888. I'm not sure. This has to be the rockinest pre-show music. It's like a party up in here. That's talking about the 10-minute pregame there that we have on. Kenny Ramsey, it's Wednesdays, kids. It's anything can happen day. All right, everybody getting psyched up in the chat early on. Hoosier 2025 best 2 hours of my day. MLM Warriors back at it again. Are you moving to your own spaces so producer Jason does not have to set up and tear down everything every day? I feel the pain, MLM Warrior. Somebody sharing my pain. No, we haven't yet. Fell through. We're still looking. We're comfortable here. It's kind of like after you stay with somebody for a while and you get used to their toilet and their shower and the pantry and everything. It's like, well, it's not too bad. Well, we don't mind if we hang out another month, do you?
Let's point out we're not freeloading here. We're contributing.
Of course we are. Born to Back Road. You rock, Rob. Need another hour. Charles Schlute. I love this program, but 2 hours seems to be just about right. All right. Ethan Hatcher, rocking and rolling with rantin' Rob Kendall.
Ethan's back. It's good to have Ethan. It's good to have Ethan back. We've missed him the last couple days.
Drew, you need an interview with Linda Cheatham.
She would
Everybody
probably
seems to jump on the Cheatham. They love to hear about.
Well, she would be
Linda
very
Cheatham.
interesting. She was a former, appeals court judge. She'd be very interesting.
She would be. She would be. Let's see. Charles Schlute, is there a full cut of this theme music? Our theme music by Dean Klein, a local guy. You can find him on Facebook, Deancline, Dean Klein. We were just talking one day. He's like, hey, man, Rob's going to need a theme song. He's like, I got something for you. And he whipped it out. And I think it fits very well.
Dean's very strong local musician. We shop local here on the Rob Kendall Show.
We do indeed. And a few more here. Drain the Swamp. Don't know why, but I no longer have the thumbs up option on my phone. I can only do it on my TV. It's there. You got to dig. YouTube makes it a little weird on the tablets and on the phones, but it's there. Keep looking. You'll find it. Let's see here. Oh, okay. And we'll finish with this one. Again, a lot of people commenting, but a lot of these comments are conversational comments. This is something great. If you want to check this out, even after the show, I think this only works on the desktop, but you can go back and if you hit play on the show, you can read all these, or you can actually join live, of course, and have a conversation. Jack Sheehan had a great experience with Baltus Travel booking a vacation. Well, we love to see that the sponsors are getting the results that they're paying for. All right, and the John Crane stuff, people like John Crane. They don't feel like he's conniving enough to be a politician, which is probably why he's no longer a politician, is, I think, the general feedback on there, Rob.
Great job as always, Producer Jason. Thank you.
All right, thank you. This chat, as always, brought to you by Black Sheep Plumbing. Give them a call.
So there was an interesting article today or I actually saw this yesterday. Wasn't able to get to it yesterday. It came from Yahoo Finance, and goes back to this conversation we've been having, which I think is something we're kind of driving here, and it's a bigger conversation. Where does local media go, and how do you make local media work? Obviously, you've got the RTV6 purchase. They've announced a new morning team. They let go a lot of the people that work there. The THR is about to get purchased, it looks like, pending some sort of ruling from a judge, and the consolidation with that is Nexstar buying Tegna. And we've been talking a lot about how you make local media work. And the reality is, to make local media work, you're going to have to change the way what we think of as local media, what we accept as local media, and how people who want to be in local media operate. The math tells you, as more corporations buy more television stations, buy more radio stations, there's going to be less people. There's also going to be less creativity. It's a plug and play. We do this, we sell this, we make it work. We make money, or we don't make money. We lose money, right? Whatever. And there was a story in Yahoo Finance about one of the world's richest people who is getting back. This sounds very weird, but he's getting back into the newspaper industry. Like he's going into the newspaper industry, and he's making it work. And he's got a business model that I think he may have stole it from the Rob Kendall Show. This is interesting. So David Hoffman is the guy's name. He's a 73-year-old billionaire. He owns 42 newspaper titles outright, and a 53% stake of Lee, which publishes 70-plus newspapers, including the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, Buffalo News, Omaha World Herald. And he says he's doing this because he wants to save America. He wants to do something for America, and he describes it as, quote, that is, quote, meaningful and far-reaching. Here's the business model he's into, which is the exact opposite of the business model all these other corporations are going into. Everything he wants to do, he wants it to be hyper-local. He's putting more money into people that are doing local stuff. Here's the reality of newspapers in this country, and it was in this Yahoo Finance article. I thought was fascinating. Nearly 40% of U.S. newspapers have vanished in the past 2 decades. They're gone. There's only 60% of the newspapers that there were 20 years ago. 50 million Americans live in quote-unquote news deserts with limited or no access to a reliable local media outlet. More than 130 newspapers shut down in 2025. And monthly unique page views of the 100 largest U.S. newspapers are down more than 45% over the past 4 years. So what did this guy do? He said, yeah, I own a corporation, but I'm going to treat each individual newspaper like its own entity. So what do I mean by this? One of the things that's frustrating when you work for a large corporation in media, it doesn't matter what you do. And what I mean by that is you may work for a company that makes a lot of money. The radio station you work for may do very well. Your ratings may be gangbusters and you may be just people plowing dollars into your radio station. Doesn't matter. There's no reward for it because every dollar you make, it's offsetting someone else losing money somewhere else. Every dollar you make, if it's not offsetting somebody losing money somewhere else, it's going to some bottom line that a shareholder has demanded. So great. You work for a radio station. Let's say it profited $2 million last year. Doesn't matter. It's never enough. You have to keep doing more with less. One, the only way to do that is to let people go, which is why you've seen a decline in staff at radio stations, TV stations. And hope someone else can pick up the slack. They can't. They're not, most cases, going to be able to. And the other thing it does is it de-incentivizes success. If there's no reward for succeeding, the guy who fails gets your money, then what's the point? It kills morale. David Hoffman, on the other hand, is giving all of his local publishers, they have full profit and loss responsibility. He's essentially allowing each newspaper, even though it's owned by a corporation, to be run like a local business. And they share in the profits if they hit numbers. So you succeed, your radio station, we're talking about newspapers here, but your radio station, your TV station, your newspaper, it makes $1 million, you get part of the cut. That's the way it needs to be done. It's the inverse of what all these megacorps are doing, acquiring media outlets. And this guy's having a blast. He's also appears to be in it for the right reasons, which is to get news back to people. He's so rich he doesn't care about a bottom line, even though it appears it's working. He's making money. One of the reasons we're successful here, we do topics that we think are of interest to you. It's not about, and we're not accountable to anyone. Like if we make one less sale each week or two less sales each week or two, like it doesn't matter. We're not doing it for the money, clearly. We're here because we want to serve you and give you a great product, and you guys are responding accordingly. Every one of the 48 titles he's bought since 2022 and owns outright is making money. Every one of them. Why? Because he has decided that when you incentivize people to produce, they do. When you incentivize people to put good work out and it makes money, they're going to go gangbusters. One of the reasons we go gangbusters here, we have to keep the lights on. If we fail, it's over. So local media can work. Local media can work if an individual, like say a DeJuan McCoy, is willing to put money back into the outlet. Make it hyper-local. Hyper-local's where it's at now. Corporate media has failed, and it will continue to fail. And it's just either slow walking or sprinting towards the volcano. But the other thing is what we're doing is working because we're hyper-local. It's why it was the business plan, the business model. So these people who are getting let go, that business model exists, not what I do, because there's only one me, but there's plenty of void in the local media vacuum if you're willing to fill it with good news, with good reporting, all of these things. Don't give up on it. Guys, I want to thank you for a great show today. You guys are just an awesome audience as always. If you haven't, hit the thumbs up, hit the like button, share the feed, subscribe to the channel. And thanks for being with us. We really appreciate it. We'll see you back here tomorrow. For producer Jason, I'm Rob Kendall. You've been watching Rob Kendall Show.